Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Public and Protective Services Committee meeting. I'm your chair, Chris Thiessen, and joined today in chambers with my committee members, Councillor Blackmore, Councillor Berg, and online we have Mayor Clayton. I'll call this meeting to order, and we will start with a land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people on the original caretakers of this land and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. We are blessed to be here today. I'll look for a motion now to adopt the agenda. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I would like to move committee adopt the agenda as presented.
All right, that motion is in order. We'll call the question.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
And that motion carries unanimously. All right, then, we will move right into our agenda, starting with reports. And I'll turn it over to our Chief of Public and Protective Services, Chief Dan Lemieux, for a service area update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start my update today with information from the RCMP. During the week of August 11th, Grande Prairie RCMP observed a stolen vehicle that was out of Dawson Creek. The vehicle was at a known drug residence. The vehicle was later stopped and the 4 occupants inside were arrested for possession of stolen property and possession of for the purpose of trafficking. And on August 11th, the same day, just after 8 p.m., the RCMP received a call concerning a man claiming to have a firearm on him. He was walking the area of 104th Avenue and 110th Street. The RCMP, assisted by the RCMP Police Dog Services, responded, located, and subsequently arrested the suspect. A search of the suspect incidental to arrest revealed an imitation firearm. As a result of that investigation, a resident of Longview, Alberta, was charged with possession of an imitation weapon for dangerous purpose, and the individual was brought before a Justice of the Peace and released. He is to appear before the Court of Justice in Grande Prairie on September the 3rd. From the Recreation Department, the fall fitness passes are on sale now until Saturday, October 11th. You could purchase 5 visits for the price of 3 visits, and passes can be redeemed until the end of the day, Saturday, November 8th, at the Eastlink Centre and Design Works Centre. From events and programming, summer camps have successfully wrapped up for the season, achieving 86% occupancy and welcoming a total of 1,305 campers. And Experience GP, the city hosted Experience GP in the downtown core this past Friday, celebrating local talent and local flavors. The event was very well attended, and music lovers enjoyed performances by the Markovich Summer Camp students, McKindred, Hey Driver, the Brastistics, and special guests, the Trues. And from the Bonnets Energy Centre, an announcement that Josh Ross will perform at the Bose on Friday, March the 6th, and tickets will be available beginning this Friday. From Housing and Community Development, Welcoming Week is from September the 12th to the 21st. The theme this year is Stories We Share, and the Grande Prairie Local Immigration Partnership is pleased to be hosting 3 free community movie nights to celebrate diversity and the power of storytelling. On September 12th, the Grande Prairie Public Library will be presenting the movie The Farewell. On September the 13th, the Grande Prairie Live Theatre will be showing Capernaum, and September 20th, the Grande Prairie Sunset Theatre will be showing the movie Coco. Admission is free, but optional donations of school snacks, diapers, or wipes will be collected for Helping Hands and the Grande Prairie Family Education Society, and event and registration details will be posted on the city's event page. And Mr. Chair, that's my report for today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chief Lemieux. I'll turn it over to committee and look for any hands shooting up. Any eyebrows raised? Seeing none. I appreciate the update there, Chief Lemieux, and I guess we'll move right along our agenda. Starting with our next item on the agenda, the Grande Prairie Policing Committee and Grande Prairie Police Service updates. And for that, I will turn it back to you, Chief Lemieux, to introduce our next people who will come sit at the table in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll start with the Grande Prairie Police Commission and Grande Prairie Police Service. So Mr. Wong and Chief Lacusta are here to present that report.
Awesome. Well, welcome, gentlemen. I'll just give them some time to get up to the front table here and look forward to your update. It was a great read, I found, and And now I look forward to see the retelling of it all. Welcome, Chair Wong and Chief Lacusta.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. My name is Dan Wong. I'm the Chair of the Grande Prairie Police Commission, and joining me is Chief Dwayne Lacusta, Chief of the Grande Prairie Police Service. I'll give you a quick update. It's a summary of the report that's already in your packages, and then we'll open it up for questions after that. We'll start with the organizational updates. So on May 28th and 29th, the Grande Prairie Police Service hosted the Alberta Centre to End Trafficking in Persons, along with partner agencies from across the province. The shared aim of the participants was to develop a consistent, community-based standard for the prevention, disruption, and response to human trafficking. Members of the Grande Prairie Police Service also engaged in community outreach during the Stampede events, most notably the Stampede breakfast and lunch. They had the opportunity to interact with both visitors and residents. These engagements have contributed to enhancing the visibility and approachability of GPPS members while reinforcing its role as a trusted and accessible presence within the community. So GPPS continues to work on building the tactical and K9 programs. Recertification was completed on May 30th, and the addition of a tactically trained and certified officer in EOP number 4 marks a significant step forward and will serve as the foundation for the development of the GPPS tactical team. Staff Sergeant Hughes completed a 10-week training program with Thunder Bay Police Service and is now a certified tactical instructor. So work is ongoing with partner police agencies to coordinate the K9 training schedules as well. GPES, the Enforcement Services, was required to adjust its approach to traffic control in response to the automated traffic enforcement rules implemented by the Government of Alberta. So these limitations, obviously, they affect where they can enforce. The contract with Global Traffic Limited will be extended through to the end of 2025, at which time it's going to be reevaluated. On May 13th, a meeting was held with Jim Peebles, Director of Training at the Government of Alberta Training Academy, to discuss the development of a community peace officer induction program in Grande Prairie. So the discussion focused on the framework for delivery, including certification and licensing requirements. Mr. Peebles expressed support for the initiative and estimated that a fully licensed program could be established in Grande Prairie by the end of 2025. As a recruitment update, so GPPS received 309 applications for 14 positions in recruit training class number 3. So those members will join the 36 members that are already hired by GPPS. Applications are also, at that time, were being accepted for Experienced Officer Program number 5. Those officers have since been hired, and they'll be going through a swearing-in ceremony later this month. Training updates. 4 officers commenced training through EOP number 4 on May 26. All 4 members come with considerable policing experience from across Canada. EOP number 4 members graduated on June 27th and have been deployed to designated positions, with 2 assigned to frontline patrol duty. 6 members of recruit training class number 1 assigned to the Community Standards Unit joined the RCMP detachment to complete their field training. So the 14 members of recruit training class number 2 commenced training on March 31st, and graduation for this class is set for September 12th. So upcoming in 2025, Q3, RTC number 3 will commence training in late September. Experienced Officer Program number 5 will commence training in September as well, and key deliverables will be continue to be developed with Public Safety and Emergency Services to evaluate what's needed for GPPS to be declared police of jurisdiction in 2026. So that's the information that's in the report, and we'd be happy to field any questions that you may have.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chair Wong. Looks like we have at least Councillor Berg in the queue, and I'll call his number.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen, and thanks, gentlemen, for the presentation. It's great to see all of the upcoming recruits and everything coming online. Just kind of curious, where are we at now, and where do we expect to be by the end of the year for a number of officers?
Chief Lacusta.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. We're currently sitting at 50 sworn officers as of September 12th once RTC2 graduates. We are set to commence training of Experienced Officer Class number 5, September 22nd. 4 officers will be hired for that or have been identified, taking us to 54. September 29th, RTC3 starts, which is going to probably, we're just finalizing one final contract here, so it'll be our 12th member. So that'll take us up to 66 by the end of the year. We've also actively identifying and recruiting experienced officers for the January class, which is looking to be above 5 here. So we're pushing 70 by the end of the year.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. One of the things that puts a smile on my face is the K9 unit.
Yes.
And it says that that's coming online. How many will we ultimately have, and when do we expect the first one ballpark to come online?
Yeah, our final org chart is we're just playing with those numbers a little bit here, just based on some of the new technology that we're bringing in with our enhanced drone program. So originally we had identified up to 4 K9 officers, handlers. We're now looking at potentially 2 to 3, just based on the technology. We're looking for the most efficient, most effective manner to police Grande Prairie. So we do have offers from Edmonton, Calgary, the OPP to trainer officers. We tried other areas, but these are the municipal agencies and provincial agencies that are stepping up to train and want to partner with us as we develop.
Okay, but we do anticipate at least 1, if not 2.
By POJ.
Yeah,
correct.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's going to be a key priority as we develop and launch the service.
Great. Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for your questions, Councillor Berg. I do have a question just to follow up on the K9 units. What is the cost to train each of our K9 officers?
It's significant cost as far as the travel and training. So, I mean, if we were to do it locally here, it'd be significant savings, but we don't have the expertise to do that. So we do have some offers from these agencies just through some negotiations. So I don't want to provide a cost here right now because I could vary. There are some in-kind offers being made here. But to give you a ballpark as far as purchasing a K9 qualified through the right lines, because we are specific, police or law enforcement are specific with the lines they come from, we're looking at about $18,000 US just for the K9.
Okay.
From there, the training is going to be determined based on travel arrangements or any costs that are associated to our host agencies. But we have a lot of support here from our municipal agencies right now.
Yeah, no, the K9 units are awesome. Just a question in regards to, I guess, other costs. So after the purchase of the K9 and the training, there's still a capital cost associated with that, bulletproof vests for the dogs, I assume?
There is. I mean, look at some of the equipment that's needed for the K9 itself. It's going to be quite minimal if you had a prorate over the course of the dog's life there. So 5 to 7 years. So any other costs that are associated to it, food, vet bills, I mean, that's no different than your home pet there. But there are a few other additional costs there to house these K9s.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Chief Lacusta. I got Councillor Blackmore in the queue.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Chief Lacusta, you briefly said POJ, and I know lots of people don't know what that is. So that's when you take police of jurisdiction, become the actual police force in Grande Prairie.
Correct.
But my real question was for Councillor Wong. The terms that the police commission members are serving are staggered, I think, and I'm wondering what we can expect to see. How soon can we expect to see some rotation on the police commission board?
So most of those terms were 3-year terms. The majority of the police commission members started in May of 2023. So you're going to start seeing turnover in 2026. There were a few that were onboarded later. 2 of them were provincial appointees. I think only 1 was a council appointee. So it's going to be up to this next council to start looking at doing a good staggering of the members, because I think we're looking at 4 members that could potentially have their terms expire by May 2026.
Okay, so that's going to come up fairly quickly for the new council. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for your questions, Councillor Blackmore. Looking around the room, I do have one more question to ask. So in the budget summary and in the report, it talks a bit about new spending or extra spending in the 2026 budget. In the budget part, it puts it all together at $662,000, just a little over that, for specialized equipment, technology, and building signage. Will that be covered underneath what we've already budgeted for the police, or is that new spending, so we'll have to discuss and debate?
Okay, I'm not certain what reference you're making there to. Is it 660? Was it specific to anything?
It just says in our report down lower, they do detail some of the stuff up in capital costs in their report that was provided to committee. But under the budget financial implications, it seems like they bundled them all together, and it says the total cost for the projects is $662,078. And this is for capital projects for specialized equipment, technology, and building signage as detailed underneath the capital costs earlier in the report.
Right. There's been some unidentified expenditures from the original transition report from the MNP report. So we're being very careful with our spending, trying to capitalize on the provincial grant that we have here. So where we can make changes or create efficiencies just to make sure we cover those is what we're doing here right now. But I don't have those specific items in front of me right now.
The 2025 budget is still being reviewed on our end, but the city manager, I think, has some additional information on those particular items.
Thank you very much, Chair Wong and Chief Lacusta. CEO Burke.
I can add to that, Chair Thiessen, that there will be an opportunity before budget deliberations for the Commission to come present their budget for Council to ratify. So that's still coming down the road here. There'll be a comprehensive ask for Council to consider as part of budget deliberations.
Okay, so this would be out of like city budget, not out of the GPPS budget?
So that'll be a combination. There'll be a more comprehensive ask just before the regular budget deliberations in the last week of November. The Commission will come and you'll see the breakdown of what is tax funded and what is grant funded through that presentation. This, I think, report was just a preview of some of the things that will be encompassed in the more comprehensive report.
Hey, good to know, and good for the new council to know coming forward as they approach their first budget. Any other questions from committee? I don't see the mayor's hand online going up. Councillor Blackmore.
I would move that we accept this report for information.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ms. Blackmore. I'll call to question.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for your time here, gentlemen. I'm going to assume that one or both of you will stick around, and I'll turn it back over to Chief Lemieux to introduce the next item on our agenda, the Grande Prairie Policing Committee and RCMP updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so Chair Wong will be joined by the Superintendent of the RCMP, Superintendent Steve McLeod, to present the Police Committee and RCMP update.
Well, welcome, Mr. McLeod. Thank you. Awesome. Well, I'll turn it right back over to you, Chair Wong.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen, committee members. So my apologies, I said 2025 budget. In the last report, I meant 2026 is the one that's going to be reviewed.
Yeah, for anyone watching online, yeah. But yeah, it's noted, and I think most of us thought that's what you meant.
Okay. So the report that I'm presenting with Superintendent McLeod is the RCMP crime statistics ending July 26, 2025. So we'll start with the municipal highlights. Break-in enters are showing a 33% decrease compared to the same period in 2024. So that's down from 189 to 126 this year for the same time period. Theft of motor vehicles decreased 14.2% compared to 2024, from 211 to 181. Theft under $5,000 decreased by 7.7%, from 1,017 incidences to 939. For criminal code offenses, total persons crime increased by 0.5%. That's an additional 7 cases this year to July 2025. Total property crimes decreased by 1.4%, less 45 incidences. Total criminal code offenses decreased by 4.9%, and that's less 319 offenses. On the municipal updates, there were 40 thefts of motor vehicles in July, 18 break-in enters, 15 provincial roadside suspensions, 121 coded under spousal abuse, and 1,886 files with victim services unit referral. That seems to be a really big number. I've been kind of following the last two numbers quite closely because we've had presentations from Odyssey House and Victim Services, and we're as a policing committee and as just a community group committee, those are very concerning numbers to us. Alberta seems to have some very high stats. These have to do with mental health, working conditions, just financial and emotional, social stresses. So we are looking to try to make that a little bit more of a focus on the prevention side, and that will be done through partner agencies. So that was just my little commentary on what was presented in front of you. That's the end of the report for RCMP, and we're happy to answer any questions for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that report, Chair Wong and Superintendent McLeod. I'll echo those sentiments. I know I always bring up those stats on domestic violence, and I do have a question maybe for later on it, but I think it's of interest to myself and probably every member of council that we hopefully turn these numbers the other way and to find ways to, help the abusers reform or help the abused find safety. I have Councillor Blackmore in the queue.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Continuing on the subject of spousal abuse, I hear a lot of chatter online, which is not necessarily the best documentation of fact, that people who are in abusive situations feel they're not getting very much support from policing services. So I'm wondering how many charges have been laid in relation to the numbers that you've just brought up, and if spousal abuse also suffers from the issue of catch and release, where people are charged and get a tap on the wrist and go home again. I'm just looking for some kind of how we handle that and what we're doing to work towards improvement in that area.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Blackmore. Turn that over to Superintendent McLeod.
Thank you, Councillor. Without the numbers in front of me, it's hard to tell you exactly how many charges are laid. But what I can tell you, going back a number of years, our policies and procedures in the law related to spousal violence is very specific and clear. It is zero tolerance. So for our frontline investigators participating in an investigation, they're obligated, if there is what we call a primary aggressor, if there's an offense identified, then we do forward a request for charge to Crown Counsel. That's going back years for us. With respect to managing reluctant victims, there's a number of sort of processes that we have in place so that they are always heard and supported. There are always going to be challenges convincing a victim of long-time domestic violence that the police are going to help them, and we're aware of that. But offering supports through community supports, Crown or community-led, police or community-led victim services supports. All of our processes are intended to support that victim and ensure that we can gather the evidence for the most successful prosecution in that case.
And if I could have a follow-up question, for those people who are primarily women caught in a cycle of abuse, does there ever reach a point where the RCMP are not responding because they've received so many calls from that residence?
No, I can assure you that is not the case with domestic violence. We come every single time. The circumstances vary, but I can tell you from experience for a number of years that it sometimes may take a number of calls to police to actually get that victim to feel either supported or heard, or even safe to provide more information. It's a huge challenge for our investigators sometimes to gather the evidence, because I'll just use some sort of for examples. Is there's some level of domestic violence in a home, and we'll use the wife as being the victim, calls, and the police come, and through either they're just being scared or we don't provide enough information, they feel that just the police attendants, that we can just do something and take the bad guy to jail or get him out of the house. But we require evidence, we require a victim statement and being engaged with the investigation, and sometimes they're not ready for that on the first or second call, and we'll keep coming and doing what we can, but it sometimes takes a number of calls, and there is zero room for not showing up to a domestic violence call. That is not a nuisance call. That is something we come to every single time. And again, it sometimes takes, it might be the first call to get a victim, what we say, on board and to participate in the process, but other times they're scared and it takes 4 or 5 interactions with the police to have them participate more fulsomely with us.
Okay, thank you.
Does that sort of answer where you're going?
Yeah, it does. I kind of know this anyway, but I just know that there's always debates around police not showing up sufficiently for domestic violence calls. I know that's not true, so I just wanted to hear you say that.
No, and I'll just add, process-wise, there are significant levels of oversight in a domestic violence related investigation, from extra, I'll call them checklists that the members are required to report on. Their supervisors are then required to do checks, and we have then members from our GIS unit who review those files for oversight again. So from an investigative point, there are so many eyes looking at it that there's no way to pass that file off without having a very thorough investigation. It's just got to meet in so many benchmarks at our end that it would be very hard for a member not to investigate it because they thought it was the third time and it wasn't going anywhere.
Okay.
To be blunt, there's just so many checks and balances now at so many levels that these have been a priority for policing for years and years, and we would continue to go back over and over because it's that continued history of violence that leads to bad things down the road. That's why we have a number of the policies and the laws we have with respect to domestic violence, because people involved in domestic violence are always at the highest risk for domestic homicides down the road. So that answers the question.
I think it more than answered the question. Thank you for your answer, Superintendent McLeod, and thank you so much for those questions, Councillor Blackmore. I'm going to go a bit. I got a couple other in the queue, but I want to just stay on this here. So it states in we had 897 calls, which seems like a reduction in spousal abuse. The question is how many of those 897 calls were unique persons? And we just said earlier, sometimes we call sometimes somebody calling in regards to domestic violence might call 4 or 5 times before any charges get laid. And so I guess my question for you is, like, do we know those stats? How many are unique individuals? Like, is it 897 or is it 420?
No, without looking often, from experience, without reviewing the stats for you, probably about 30 to 40% would be repeat. There's people who are involved in these relationships that were just between community services and the police aren't able to break that chain of violence, and they continue to repeat those cycles of violence and crimes and call for police help. And then there'll be several new. So I don't have the exact numbers for you, but it's not uncommon for calls to domestic violence to not be the first time. If that.
You know, I actually didn't expect to hear the answer because I didn't think it would come forward in this setting. But does the RCMP track those repeat calls at all? Like, if you have like 3 calls from the same person regarding domestic violence, does that go into a file? Like, what's your process for that?
Well, every call for service is recorded. Mm-hmm. So, in a sense, they're tracked. They're not always tracked particularly. We don't have a number that says, oh, this person called this many times. But if a victim or a person called for assistance, we would be able to quickly determine that it wasn't their first time calling.
Okay. Yeah, and the only reason why I asked that is just based off your statement and our knowledge around domestic violence turning into domestic homicide. And my assumption would be that if there's persistent abuse and persistent calls, that could be an escalation that could lead to a worse outcome. So I was just curious for myself and perhaps anybody else watching, if the police are monitoring, hey, we've had 5 calls from this residence, it might be getting to the point where we might have something to go forward with this consistent behavior. But,
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And if I could just add something, like the agencies that we talk to, they really commend the police for the work that they do. On the intervention side, we have a lot of supports. However, like the number 897 to date was to the end of July. That projects, right around that 1,500 per year cases, and it's been the same pattern for as long as they could show us stats for. So that's the really concerning thing. I think there needs to be resources put into prevention, counseling services, mental health services. We need to find a way to break that cycle so that we don't have to rely on RCMP to always be there to enforce.
Or GPPS.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think between the two organizations and other community individuals, we might be able to get closer to solutions so that we don't see this recidivism in this type of crime. I'll turn it over to Councillor Berg, and then I have Councillor O'Connor. Unless somebody from committee chips in, I'll move you down the line. But you're currently after Councillor Berg, Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, so just around the domestic violence, do you track drug and alcohol or incidents around that, or?
Yes, it's part of the scoring related to the offense. Just in sort of plain English, when the electronic file is created, there's certain indicators that are flagged related to that incident. So I believe our pros does that as well, right? Yeah. Sorry, the old BC guy in me is just making sure our data is the same, but it is something that's counted in each incident. So when we create the electronic file, there's literally a box that would say drugs, alcohol associated or related to that offending. So it is there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And I think we're going to hear from Ms. Wenzel later today with a report on drug and alcohol. So I just wanted to mention 2 things. Now that you and Chief Lemieux are in the room, around the Margaret Edgson Manor, we heard some valiant stories around the police service. So while the firefighters were dealing with the fire, your men and women went into a burning building and ensured that everyone got out safe. So with both of you in the room, I sincerely want to thank you from everybody in Grande Prairie. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, a question, and this is one that's been on my mind for quite some time, and Chief Lemieux's report actually sparked it, and I didn't quote Chief Lemieux exactly, so forgive me. But in one of his reports, he said that a stolen vehicle was found at a known drug house. So the question is around, if it's a known drug house, how are we resolving that, or how are we investigating that, or just kind of curious, if it's a known drug house, why is it not being addressed?
Superintendent McLeod.
And thank you. Very happy to answer that question. There's through a number of investigative services, we identify other problem properties or criminal activity in the town. So it may be the level of intelligence that we have on a particular residence is involved in drug activity. And I can tell you in a community this size, there are a number. So it's just a process of getting to that particular house through investigative steps. I won't get into in the session here how we would go about that.
And that's fair.
But there would be sometimes it's intelligence-led, proactive identification of a residence, then a thorough investigation that would lead to grounds to further an investigation. Other times when there's a vehicle located at a drug house, sometimes that leads us to grounds to initiate an investigation immediately. So stolen vehicles and drug-related activity go hand in hand, and it's the intent of myself and the members of our detachment to proactively target those stolen vehicles, the offenders involved in those, as well as the drug-related activity.
So essentially, if I'm going to paraphrase, and correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially it's still under investigation.
If you're talking about a particular place, and
I'm not.
Yeah. Yes.
Just generally speaking, if it's a known drug house, but again, it hasn't been busted, for lack of a better word.
Or to tell you the truth, it could have been busted 3 times, and behavior continues there. So, as I've mentioned previously, we're moving forward on what I'm calling a ComStat, or type of crime reduction enforcement at the detachment. So moving forward, and we've hit a couple bumps just with staffing over the summer. So I committed early on to council that I'd have that going by now, and our first full meeting won't be until September now. So I've talked about that previously, and that is going to be a targeted type of enforcement procedure where if a known drug house came on our radar, we would discuss it in our crime reduction meetings. And the purpose of those crime reduction, or ComStat, what I'm calling it here, is based on the information from members or calls for service. We would identify that drug house, and then as a group, with a number of people at the table, would determine who's going to be responsible for targeting that particular property, and what ways we can target it. Because we have to always think outside the box. We could sit there forever, and maybe we don't gather grounds for search warrant, and we can't arrest anybody there. But there are other ways to do it, and that's engaging other city services. Perhaps we put that on bylaws radar for some property or offenses or bylaw-related infractions where we can move the persons out of that place. But I want to look at a bigger picture when we come to targeting some of this stuff, because it's always not directly enforcement that's going to move that problem. And my intent would be, over the course of identifying that drug house, develop a plan, ownership and accountabilities, and then a month later report back on how successful we were. And that may be conventional police operations, and we conduct a search warrant or make arrests, or we engage other services to make sure that the people responsible at that location are moved on.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your questions, comments, and praise there, Councillor Berg. I'll turn it over to Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Just quickly, Superintendent McLeod, I'm just curious, after the province changed the model on victim service assistance, I'm just wondering, there's 1,886 files, and for the public, just wondering the 1,545 files with no victim, is that just an accident and there were no injuries, or what is the difference there in those numbers?
Superintendent McLeod.
I'm not sure what the difference is in the numbers. I just don't have those in front of me, so I can't speak to that today. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll look to my other committee members for any questions or business arising. I'm all out of questions. Thanks so much for answering so candidly, gentlemen. Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like committee to approve this for information.
That motion is in order. I'll look for any discussion or debate. Seeing none, let's vote. That motion, May Clayton? Oh, she's off. She's offline right now. She just went off. I think she might have hit... yeah. But that motion carries 3-0. Thank you so much, Chair Wong, Superintendent McLeod, Chief Lacusta, for your reports. Now, moving from policing and crime statistics to the most notorious criminals running around on 4 legs through Swanhaven, I'll turn this over to Chief Lemieux to introduce our feral rabbit report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in June, City Council asked for another report to report an update on the feral rabbit situation within the city. So the Senior Strategic Advisor for Public and Protective Services, Michelle Coleman, did the research, prepared the report, and is here to present the report.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. This report is in response to Council's past motion regarding options for managing feral rabbits within the city, specifically in Swanhaven neighborhoods. At a June council meeting, delegates from Swanhaven raised concerns about the increasing rabbit population and associated impacts. Concerns included damage to property and public spaces, increased maintenance costs, potential ecological imbalance, and safety risks from attracting predators. At a subsequent council meeting, some residents expressed support for the rabbits with a petition submitted in their favor. Enforcement services and the communications team collaborated to deliver a targeted public campaign. 150 information sheets were hand-delivered, and over 300 were mailed to residents within the Swanhaven area. Messaging focused on the risks of feeding wildlife and encouraged responsible behavior. Digital updates were done to the city's website as well as social media. In 2025, only 2 rabbit-related enforcement calls were received, both occurring before the outreach began. Administration also engaged directly with the delegates. As part of our review, administration examined population management practices and approaches implemented by other municipalities and provinces. After careful consideration, we determined these options are not recommended at this time. Administration provide the following options for consideration: amend the existing bylaw to explicitly prohibit releasing domestic animals, including rabbits, into public spaces. The option would require a public communication efforts and potential budget allocations. In closing, administration recommends committee receive this report for information, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are some at this time.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Coleman, for the report. I'll turn it over to any members of council who may want to question. I got Councillor Berg.
Yeah, I'm going to speak on behalf of Councillor O'Connor. He had a question, but he's not on this committee. Is there some way to, I guess, places that sell rabbits, pet stores or different things, is there some way that we can warn them not to, the people that are buying them, not to release them into the wild, or would they potentially take it back, I guess is the question.
Ms. Coleman.
Thank you, through the chair. We definitely can look into that options and provide that communication back to the public. At this time, I do not have that answer.
No, that's fair. So one of the things around the alternative option 1, amend the bylaw. So currently, I'm assuming that we don't have a bylaw about releasing any domestic animals. Would that include fish and any reptiles?
Ms. Coleman.
Thank you, through the chair. We can definitely look into what animals, mammals, what that would include. If we were to go the option to update the bylaw, we'd make sure we provide that information so the community is aware.
Yeah, thank you, because I know Sylvan Lake has really struggled with goldfish being released into some of their ponds and had to take some drastic measures because they just keep breeding and get rid of the goldfish, but they can't get rid of the eggs. But maybe not necessarily an issue in our climate around reptiles, but if you look at some of the issues in warmer climates, the release of invasive species of reptiles is really causing some serious damage. So I'd be happy to make that motion when we come around to it.
For sure. Thank you for that, Councillor Berg. Yeah, I know in Kelowna once I found a boa constrictor in the neighborhood of my father-in-law, and I thought that was neat and probably not wild. And we did have a goldfish problem in Muskosipi Park years ago that we addressed with through our bylaws as well. So that's a potential. I did have a question for you, though, Ms. Coleman. Is something that I guess I could have looked up myself under the bylaw. I think it's 1033. So if somebody's caught feeding a rabbit, a feral rabbit, what is the fine for that? Is there a punishment at all that a resident may receive? Like I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm sorry. I got Chief Lemieux in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also don't have the number in front of me. There definitely would be a penalty. Our approach in enforcement services is always education first, so we most likely would not fine somebody right off the bat. We'd probably give a warning and do some education.
Okay, well, that was my question, so thank you very much for that. Yeah, and I really like to hear that we're doing the education, and the education pieces provided in the report here, I think, are pretty self-explanatory for anyone that might want to challenge the bylaw in any way, shape, or form. I got Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I think it might be helpful if we're going to approach pet stores and the suppliers of baby bunnies, that they be accompanied with some kind of material that tells you what to do if you can no longer keep your bunny. I think that the reason people release them is because they don't know what else to do, and they can go to to bandage paws, or they can go to they can be picked up by enforcement. I'm just wondering if we're tracking the spread, the geographic spread of our feral bunny population. I've heard a lot of complaints in the last just the last couple of months of bunnies being as far north as the VLA district or the QE2 hospital. There's a lot more sightings around there. I don't know if we're doing anything to track the population or to understand how it's developing, and maybe Chief Lacusta has, or sorry, you just became the police chief. Maybe Chief Lemieux can answer that.
Chief Lemieux?
Thank you for the question. So I can tell you that through enforcement services, we do keep track of calls because we do get calls and complaints. So that's one way to track it. We certainly don't have any other way to track, but certainly we have a good sense of where the major problems are, and where if there's an extension and a geographical change, we do have some anecdotal and some statistics from enforcement services based on calls and complaints.
And then another question I have is, it's not addressed in this report, but the feral bunny population is not indigenous. It's not indigenous bunnies, and most countries have some sorts of laws around the removal of non-indigenous animals. So, for example, Sylvan Lake can remove the goldfish from the lake. Is there some reason we cannot remove the feral bunnies from the city?
I could take that one also, Mr. Chair. So that certainly is an option. Some municipalities have done that. In discussing, I guess our first approach, our first recommendation is let's educate people so they quit feeding the bunnies. We are told by local experts and trappers that you're right, these are domestic animals. They're not wild hares, they're domestic animals. Depending on the type of winter that we have, these bunnies do not fare well in the winter. These domestic rabbits do not fare well in the winter. So we're hoping, and a problem is people feed them in the winter also. So we're hoping that if people quit feeding them, we might be able to see a reduction in numbers. So that's our first approach. Are there programs out there where you can remove some of these feral rabbits? Yes, there are. We're not recommending this at this time, but it may be an option for the future.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for your questions, Councillor Blackmore. Yes, it does say in the budget that there are no funds currently dovetailed. I want to say ear-tailed because we're talking bunnies here, for the bunnies. Would Ms. Coleman, would we have, let's say council chose to go with an alternative option and to do some enforcement, maybe set a budget on here. Has anybody in the department or yourself thought or discussed what a budget might look like? Are we talking $20,000, $50,000? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but I don't think that's the motion that's coming forward.
Thank you through the chair. We don't have that information at this time, but we can definitely look into those options if that's the way that council wishes me to go, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thiessen. Just anecdotally, on the weekend, I'd seen two bunnies north of Maud Clifford School, which is just off 132nd. So they're basically at the residential city limits to the north. And to quote Bob Barker, coming from Councillor O'Connor again, have your pet spayed or neutered. So are you open to business?
I am open to business, Councillor Berg.
So how we wordsmith this, I'm open to it, but I'd like to amend the municipal bylaw to prohibit the release of domestic mammals, fish, and reptiles, thank you, including rabbits, into public spaces.
Well, that motion is in order. Now you got me thinking. So I'll open it up for discussion or debate. I guess I'll open with my own thoughts on it. Last week my bunny got out of the backyard and became internet famous for a while on the Facebook. We were lucky to have several members in the neighborhood help to chase him down and get him back into the yard and safe and sound. It's a good thing he's totally white and flop-eared. Everyone knew he was a domestic bunny, not a feral rabbit. And I put up there that he's also family. So Sometimes those bunnies, they do get out, and it's not by the intention of the owner. And I guess for me, what I'm struggling with is how our bylaw enforcement might be able to go about and enforce this. I mean, it's one thing if people are dumping a bunch of goldfish in Muskosipi Pond and, maybe one of our cameras picked them up with the goldfish bag or somebody spotted them. But if you're releasing an animal into the wild, I don't know outside of having a witness how we might be able to enforce that.
Yeah, for me, I guess I just see this as more of education. Please don't release your domestic animals into the wild. Like, again, people will let cats go outside and they come home. And again, unintentional, but the specific release is what I'm speaking to.
It looks like we got some motion of discussion over here. I'll turn it over to CAO Burke.
Just a small suggestion that will be in your e-scribe opposed to administration amending it on our own.
Okay, yeah, no, and you know what? I think I can be okay with that. I don't mind looking at the options and seeing how we're going to go about it. But sometimes, I want to make sure that if we do a bylaw, that it's enforceable. Councillor Blackmore.
Never having owned a bunny, this is a question. Do we have a pet? Do bunnies fall under pet licensing? Do they have to be tagged?
They do follow under our responsible pet ownership bylaw, yes.
So people have to buy a license to have one. Mm-hmm. So therefore you can track the population. Maybe not easily, but you can.
Yeah, I'm thinking not all populations, but that's why I look forward to the amendments, because I know we got a brilliant staff who will come forward and say, well, we're not sure what council maybe wants from here, but here's some options that they can discuss and debate. So I'm definitely okay with that, as it's noted in our e-scribe. Any other discussion or debate? Mayor Clayton.
Oh, my apologies, Councillor Thiessen. My hand was up to make the comments that the CAO made in regards to the wording on the motion, but I'm good as it was corrected. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So hearing that, I don't see anybody else itching to get in the queue. Councillor Berg, would you like to close on this motion? Or?
Sure. Again, bottom line, responsible pet ownership is perfectly fine. If your bunny gets out, cats get out, dogs get out, that's something that happens. So that's not around this. This is about willingly setting something free that you no longer want to take ownership of. But again, could be damaging to, again, not only the neighborhoods, but also to, it's cruel to the animal or the fish or whatever you're setting free. So there's better alternatives. And I think for a lot of people that may have goldfish or different things, they're just not aware that they can be invasive and they can harm the environment. Or again, releasing bunnies, it's become an issue now. So I see this a large part of awareness as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that close there, Councillor Berg. We'll call the question.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
And that motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Coleman, for your report. I know this is your first time in front of us, and you did great. I look forward to seeing you come back and present your report again. Sorry if we scared you off there a little bit, but that's the nature of the game, I guess. All right, moving right on to our next report. We have Housing and Homelessness System Update. I'll turn it over to Chief Lemieux to introduce our next administrator at the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So over time, we've been asked a number of questions about how are we doing for occupancy at Cedar Point and Fletcher House and other areas of our housing and homeless system. So we thought it would be timely for an update to committee. And so I'm pleased to welcome Tammy Wenzel, our Director of Housing and Community Development, to present her report.
Welcome, Ms. Wenzel. I look forward to your report.
Sorry, my mouse is not working. Just give me a Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, no, we can hear you.
This report today is for information and to provide a current snapshot of housing and homelessness in Grande Prairie for the month of July 2025. The goal is to provide an up-to-date information on how the housing continuum and coordinated access systems are functioning, from emergency shelter to permanent housing, and where we are seeing both success and where systems have reached capacity. Grande Prairie has housing options across the housing continuum. The housing continuum is the structure or foundation of our local housing system. It includes every type of housing supports available, from emergency shelter and day programs to transitional housing, supportive housing, and eventually independent market housing. This structure allows us to meet people where they are and support them as their needs change. Coordinated access, on the other hand, is a system or process we use to help people move through the continuum. It ensures individuals are assessed fairly, prioritized based on need, and matched to the most appropriate housing and support. So the continuum is what we have. Coordinated access is how we use it effectively. This presentation today was designed to provide a snapshot of the Housing Hub table triage and wait lists, occupancy data from each housing site, success stories that show the impact of coordinated access, a snapshot of the new data dashboard that we are building and implementing, and a sample of how the new data system will help us build personas to understand people in the system versus just a number. Let's start with the Housing Hub table and the triage point of our coordinated access system. It's where housing decisions are made collaboratively between the city and 8 partner organizations. As you can see on the slide, it lists the partners. This process ensures that individuals are matched to the right housing type based on the need, not just who arrives first. It's about prioritizing the most vulnerable and finding the best fit possible. Our housing access service, delivered by Centerpoint Facilitation, is the front door to the system. In July alone, it responded to 195 calls or on-site visits and completed 33 intake SPDATS assessments. The SPDAT assessment is the assessment that we use to understand the individuals in our community and the acuity levels. And as the chart shows, we're consistently seeing over 200 contacts per month, showing just how much pressure and need is coming through the system. This volume reinforces the critical role of triage. We're not just connecting people to housing, we're making sure that they are connected to the most appropriate housing. This slide shows that this is some housing data that we pull from our wait list. So this slide shows that 38 individuals were assessed and discussed at the Housing Hub table in July. Each person has been matched to the most appropriate housing type or support pathway, whether that's supportive housing or adaptive case management. While these individuals may be ready to move into housing, today, the reality is there isn't enough housing available because most of our program, as you will see throughout the presentation, is at full capacity or near capacity, hence why we have a wait list until units become available. This shows a coordinated system that's working, but one that needs more housing options to keep up with the demand. It's also important to note that these 38 individuals are not waiting alone. Each of them are currently supported by a community partner, whether that's Centerpoint Facilitation, Mobile Outreach, Wapiti House, St. Lawrence Center, Odyssey House, Sunrise House, or the Friendship Center. This means that the system is working to keep people engaged and stabilized, so as soon as a unit becomes available, they can move in. The next several slides will highlight the key housing programs we use when making referrals through the Housing Hub table. First up, Cedar Point. As we all know, this is a mixed model facility and one of our most essential assets in the housing continuum. Cedar Point offers 63 units of permanent supportive housing for individuals with high and complex needs, supported with on-site staff and services to promote stability, recovery, and transition towards independence. On the 3rd floor, there are 42 independent affordable housing units, which support individuals who are more self-sufficient but still need accessible, stable housing. In addition to housing, Cedar Point also supports city operations. This building includes space for city staff from 5 different departments. So just to show some data, Centrepoint Permanent Supportive Housing is operated by the Mustard Seed and receives provincial funding. We are currently at a 90% occupancy. So as you can see from the slide, we currently have 57 individuals living there out of the 63 units. The remaining 6 units are available for regular placement. They're reserved. They're not available for regular placement. They're reserved for emergency use and safety-related contingent. And what that means is individuals, as you've heard me say previous times, we're seeing a different complexity. Individuals that are coming into service, when we are using our SPDAT scoring, we're seeing a higher acuity rate. So although the caseload only specifies that we have 57, this really equates to about 72.5 individuals. So if we looked at those numbers, we're operating Cedar Point Permanent Supportive Housing at about 115% of the intended caseload capacity. Again, this can tell us 2 things: that the program is highly utilized and successful, but it could also tell us that it's stretched beyond what it was designed to handle. Now we have our 3rd floor. So in July, Cedar Point, again, this program is operated by the Mustard Seed, but as of July, 33 out of the 42 units are occupied. This represents 79%. Of those individuals, we just pulled some interesting stats of the individuals that we're seeing. 54% of the individuals that are living there are employed, while others are receiving HCPP, EI, and Alberta supports. So this mix demonstrates that the model is successfully serving both working individuals and those on fixed and limited incomes. I just checked on the numbers yesterday, just because these numbers are from July. We do have pending move-ins, so this number should definitely increase this month as well. Next, we have Fletcher House, which again is a mixed model facility offering both supportive and independent affordable housing. And this facility is operated by Wapiti Community Support Services. So in July, 39 out of the 42 units were occupied, giving us a 93% occupancy rate. So basically the breakdown is we have 1 unit available in July in supportive units, and we had a couple units available in the independent units. As of yesterday, last week when I checked in, they are totally full as of today, as of last week. Moving on to Oasis. Oasis, again, is operated by Wapiti Community Support Service and receives funding through the city via the federal funded Reaching Homes. This site includes 12 supportive apartments and 8 independent affordable units. While there are 8 independent units, some are shared, so they can be up to 12. So as of July, again, this program was totally full with the 1 person that was currently underway of moving in. Moving on to Wapiti House. Wapiti House is our provincially funded shelter. It's operated again by Wapiti Community Supports Association and a key component of our emergency housing system, offering both shelter beds, transitional housing, and winter emergency. In July of 2025, the shelter program, which includes 55 beds, 40 overnight mats, and 10 seasonal mats, had 92 of the 105 spaces in use, which this is about an 88% occupancy rate. The transitional suites, which offer shared long-term accommodations, were also near full capacity, with 49 of the 52 beds, resulting in a 94% occupancy rate. Wapiti House continues to serve as a critical front door in the housing continuum. They also operate the Winter Emergency MAT program, which now operates out of the St. Lawrence Centre, and funding for 11 additional spaces are funded by the province. Moving on to St. Lawrence Centre. This may not look like housing, but it's truly the front door of our housing system. The St. Lawrence system, operated by Wapiti Community Supports and provincially funded, provides daytime shelter and overflow MAT programs year-round. The overflow MAT program is only operational from October till March yearly. It's where relationships are built, trust is earned, and people first connect with supports that guide them into long-term housing. In July, the center served 167 unique visitors, averaging 34 individuals per day, with the busiest day reaching 52 people. The city, Wapiti, and the province are all key partners in making this work, and this space plays a crucial role in reaching people who are often the hardest to engage, because ultimately, if you can't support someone you can't find. Moving on to Centrepoint. So this slide highlights the growing demand on our adaptive case management system, which is delivered through Centrepoint facilitation and provincially funded. In July, there were 85 individuals on the active caseload, but when adjusted for acuity again, meaning the intensity and complexity of their needs, it rises to 91 weighted cases out of the possible 120. Importantly, 57 of those individuals are currently housed. That's 67% of the caseload, showing that the model is working to stabilize people in housing, not just get them there. In addition, we have 32 individuals receiving housing loss prevention, which is federally funded through Reaching Homes. This stream focuses on keeping people housed, preventing evictions and homelessness before they happen. Together, both these programs are tackling both the front and back end of homelessness, moving people in and keeping them housed. So we talk a lot about numbers, and today I had asked our researchers to just pull three stories of people from the data, so I could really get an idea of how our housing continuum is working, especially with our coordinated access. So I'll just walk you through the cases. These three stories shown here highlight very different experiences, but they all show how the housing continuum works when it's properly resourced and coordinated. Success story 1, a male tenant, middle age. He faced addictions, job loss, and homelessness. Progression, so when we look at the housing coordinated access and how we move people through, so the first place of contact was at the MATS program and the Street Outreach Center. From there, he received a SPDAT, medical appointments and transportation, from our mobile outreach team. From there, he was referred to the hub table via the coordinated access assessment. He entered Wapiti's transitional housing. This person stayed there for 36 months, transitioned to Fletcher House, which became into the supportive, now went to the independent, and currently is moved into market housing, Cedar Point, on our 3rd floor. So this just gives you an idea of when supports are set up right, success can happen. So some of the outcomes from this, just one story, this person is now employed. He has regained driver's license, purchased a vehicle, medication is stabilized, and he has entered into long-term recovery. I'll just use the second, I'll just do one more out of just like to give you an idea of the progression. So again, male, age 19. This person was a youth from provincial care with a history of aggression and marijuana use. The first point was our emergency shelter at Sunrise House Youth Shelter. Again, supported by mobile outreach to do the SPDAT, to go to appointments. Got referred to the housing hub table, was transitioned to the youth housing program. When this person aged out, he was referred to Cedar Point Supportive Housing via the hub table. And this person had 11-month stay, has now graduated to 6 months residential treatment in British Columbia. Again, we can see the outcomes of stabilization on medication, engaged in addiction and trauma counseling, completed anger management. So again, these are the stories of the numbers that we're talking about. The system actually works when we put the right supports in place and have the right programs to effectively work with people. Again, you've heard me talk again about our new data system that we engaged in about 3 months ago. I'm not going to go deep into detail as we're just in the learning stages. We're only 3 months in, but I just wanted to show you a glimpse. And I know we've talked a lot about dashboards and wish we had systems dashboards. Well, we do now have a dashboard, but I don't want to dive into the dashboard today because, like I said, we're only 3 months in and it's not telling us a lot of information because we're just in that learning and implementation phase. So I just wanted to show you that eventually we will have access to the real-time data. One of the things that we are learning about this new system is we have to learn how to build the templates to pull the reports that we absolutely want and need as a city. So we can customize it to our city, being the data steward as well for the provincial and federal government, for our community. It gives us that ability to be able to work with the organizations and our community to say, what do we actually want to know and how are we going to use this data? So again, not going to go into it, just wanted to give you a glimpse of this is what's coming and this is what's going to be available for us in the next few months. Again, I just wanted to look at kind of just to show some of the sample of the data to help better understand housing needs in our community. We pulled data on 6 individuals from the HIFIS and created personas. So when I say personas, we really wanted to get an idea of what is this person about, what is this person telling us? And by mapping of the individuals, we looked at it and we placed them into categories of the housing continuum. What would that look like? So based on the data that we're able to pull now, we kind of looked at permanent supportive housing, transitional, right up to high structure. And out of the 6 individuals, it gives us a good glimpse on this slide of where we would place 1, 4, and 6. Where we would place 3 and 5, 2 and 5 and 6. So it's giving us a whole other level of understanding by looking at people and their personas versus looking at just at the numbers of people in the system. It's hard for us to answer questions when I'm asked, well, what type of housing do we need? I think this data is going to give us a better picture of the type of housing that we need in our community based on the data that we're able to pull now. So just in conclusion, as the system approaches capacity, the housing needs assessment update is timely and an opportunity to identify emerging gaps and guide future investments. The implementation of the enhanced HIFIS data system further strengthens the city's ability to monitor performance and respond proactively. In addition, the city's expression of interest has submitted an expression of interest for an alternative relationship plan, an ARP at Centrepoint, which represents a critical step in the integrating healthcare access into housing systems. When people are well, the system functions differently, preventing crisis, reducing strain, and enabling better long-term outcomes. On another note, the provincial funding for Cedar Point will revert back through the city on October the 1st. The city will again hold the contract with Mustard Seed. This report is submitted for information, and I am open to questions or comments.
Thank you very much for the great report, Ms. Wenzel. I do have Councillor Berg in the queue, but I had one question. Formerly, in a different life of mine, I worked in the housing sector with Canadian Mental Health Association. And I know SPDAT and HIFIS, these are systems that have been used for quite some time. But when we have wait lists and stuff, I know there's other organizations such as Rising Above, Canadian Mental Health Association, even Grand Spirit has some properties that were divested to them from the city, and Odyssey House with Serenity Place. How come those were not included in the report? And I guess further, when we have wait lists, do we work with those organizations to try to find placement for people?
Thank you for the question, Chair Thiessen. We are absolutely collaborating with our partners on any given day. So the hub table and the triage meet every Wednesday to discuss each of the individuals that are being assessed. The groups that I talked about today are the individuals that are a part of the housing hub table. There are a lot more programs in the community that I could have pulled more data from. I tried to keep it very much around what we are provincially and federally funding and what programs that we have in our HIFIS system. However, as I had said, our HIFIS data were not there yet, so we did have to call for some of those data points because our HIFIS system is not, the data system is not where we need it to be. But weekly, we are collaborating with any of our partners. The table really does a really good job at assessing the people's needs and where they need to go. So if it is a call to Sunrise House, Odyssey House, or one of our addiction centers, those calls are made and those referrals are made.
So will those be in the HIFIS system later on, or we're just doing our own housing hub table? Because I understood that was simplified. I like to see what the city is doing directly, but would they be included as well in the future, or are we just going to keep it to our own housing hub?
Thank you for the question, Chair Thiessen. This housing table is directly for people that for us assessing people that are absolutely homeless. So when we say absolute homeless, we're meaning chronic and episodic. So some of the programs that you refer to, like CMHC, absolutely they're a part of the continuum when we're discussing them, but they're not a part of the housing and homelessness hub table because they work with their population is very different than the population that's being discussed at the housing hub table.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll turn it over to Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thiessen. I've got a few questions. With the Margaret Edgson Manor fire, did that impact your organizations and add some extra strain that may not normally show up in these reports?
Ms. Wenzel.
Thank you for the questions through the chair. So the individuals that were living at Margaret Edgson Manor were definitely more on the affordable side of things. What I would say the biggest impact to the individuals or to that system was it would have impacted Grand Spirit Foundation's wait list. So anyone that was sitting on the wait list that was ready to move into housing, they would have been now deprioritized to prioritize the individuals that needed that's affordable housing moving from Margaret Edgson Manor back into the community. So I wouldn't say that we're seeing a strain. Absolutely. We have housed some of the individuals in some of the programs I've talked about today, but I wouldn't say that it strained this exact system that we're talking about around housing and homelessness.
Okay, good to know. During the police report, it came up again about domestic violence and drugs and alcohol. Do you have any idea when the provincial treatment center north of the city is expected to be done?
Ms. Wenzel.
Thank you for the question. I'm sorry I don't have an answer to that, but yeah, I would not have an answer to that. We always hear the rumblings that it's happening, so we can only hope that it's going to come sooner than later.
Yeah, thanks. And then I guess one final question. And this will probably be for the next council, but when we start approaching capacities and limits, this is something that I'm sure the next council will have to consider. But advocacy or investment around additional beds or spaces. Do you see that coming in the next 1 year, or is this more of a medium or long-term fix?
Thank you. Good question through the chair. As I had previously said in our updates, we are right now looking at our housing needs assessment. We're already starting the process, and we're hoping that with all of this new data, looking at our systems, looking at what's happening in our community, we're going to have a really good story to tell by 2027 and really know what types of investments that we can be prepared for. I think the best thing that we need to do as a city is to have those shovel-ready projects ready to go when grants are available. So I think this housing needs assessment is timely, and it'll give us the opportunity to tell a better story about our community.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for those questions, Councillor Berg. I was excited for a second thinking, oh, we're going to get an update on the treatment center, but Ms. Wenzel and our CAO and our chief were like, nope, we don't got anything yet. So I'll turn it over to Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you. Ms. Wenzel, you said that the Housing Hub gets roughly 200 applicants a month. Are those repeat applicants because you're not able to accommodate them at the time, or are they 200 unique applications every month?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So we're seeing over 200 calls. So it's not so much applications that we're seeing. Those are the calls that we are receiving through that triage line. With that triage line, sometimes it could be as simple as answering a question at that time of the 200 people. Most of what we're seeing is the assessments that come out of those calls. So it's that front end triage system to say, how many people need the assessment and how do we support people versus the right support versus just giving everyone an assessment. So the triage, it could be the same people month after month. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but that would make more sense that it could be some duplication of people calling.
Okay. Well, you're learning how to track your new data. That would be a number that's of interest to me. Because it gives a clearer picture of who you're serving in the community. I'm also wondering, for scattered housing and subsidized market housing, we know that Grande Prairie is at a vacancy rate of basically 0 right now. Are landlords who may have rented to you in the past moving to different clients now, or are you seeing you're still able to maintain enough units to put people in?
Thank you for the question through the chair. As always, I mean, anyone right now, I think in our city is struggling to find housing, especially our organizations that are working with our most vulnerable in our community are absolutely struggling to find housing. But what we do know is, based on the number that I presented today, that we do currently have and successfully have housed 57 of the individuals that are currently with our adaptive case management have housing and are into market housing.
Okay. And that's 57 individuals, not 57 families, correct?
I would say my data right now tells me 57 individuals. So I will go, maybe those are some families, but like right now, that's what the data is telling me. We have 57 individuals.
And a little bit off topic, but the cause of this whole program is the number of homelessness who are in Grande Prairie. And I've been hearing from people that they seem like they are seeing a lot more homeless. My response to them is homelessness is more visible in the summer. So I'm wondering if we've actually seen an increase in homelessness numbers, or if we're still maintaining a rather large but still stable number.
Ms. Wenzel.
Thank you for the question through the chair. I did look at our data from last year in comparison to what we're seeing this year. There's nothing alarming over the numbers that we're seeing this year compared to last year. The most alarming thing is that we are now seeing that we're already at 88% capacity at Wapiti House. So based on Wapiti's kind of conversations we've had with them, their biggest issue is not keeping people in the shelter or keeping people housed. It's the dollars to support the number of individuals that are coming in for things like food security and keeping people not hungry. So I'm not getting the understanding, and I don't get the impression from our shelter that we're at capacity and that they can't support. What I get the impression is they're prepared to fill to their max capacity, and what we've seen year after year, in the winter times, we do go over our max capacity when we can, and we do find that support. And just last week, I had a conversation with my provincial representative that I chat with, and they're very well aware of our numbers and what trigger points we need to be looking for once winter starts approaching to see if we have to do more.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks for those great questions, Councillor Blackmore. Ms. Wenzel, some of those homeless stats would be pointed out in our point-in-time count, correct?
Thank you for the question, yes.
Okay, and those are available publicly online. I'll hand it over to Mayor Clayton, and then I've got a non-committee member in the queue.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Just for Council's information, the CAO and I did have a conversation with the Deputy Minister of Mental Health and Addiction in late July, mid-July. At that point, the government had indicated they would be taking the recovery-orientated recovery center to market with an RFP for design and build out this fall. So with that, they were still very optimistic that the build would be completed by 2027. The reason I bring it up is I encourage my colleagues and everyone to remind their MLAs of how important this project is to us. And if you have an opportunity to run into Minister Wilson, also remind him how important this project is. Thanks.
Super valuable, Mayor Clayton. Thank you very much for that add-on. I know we had questions about the treatment facility earlier by Councillor Berg, and nobody really had an answer, but it's good to hear that something is in the works. I'll turn it over to Councillor Bressie now for a question.
Great, thank you. I'm wondering if you could tell me more about provincial funding returning back to the municipality. Was this funding that got rolled from us up to the province at the end of 2024 as part of their strategy, or was it different?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, that is correct. So in March of 2025, the province had made the decision to roll some of their provincial funding direct from the province to our organizations. So over the last several months, there's been lots of learnings. As we all know, Cedar Point is a big project, and we are licensed under Alberta Health Services to meet 39 standards. So some of the decisions, this decision was made based on it was harder to pull the city out and untangle the city than versus keeping them tangled. So it was a decision that was made by the province, the city, and the mustard seed, so that we're going back to roll back to being rolling the funding through the city. So we have the ability to work more closely with the contracted organization versus being pulled apart.
So, and that roll up of funding was not just Cedar Point. That was a lot of programs, a lot of municipalities across the province. If I'm understanding you right, it sounds like this is kind of a one-off rollback through the city for Cedar Point, not a broader thing that's happening in our community across the province?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, yes, that is correct. Cedar Point is the only program that we are taking back through the city due to our learnings and how intertwined the city administration is with that building. It's a very important project, and we have to make sure that we have the ability to meet 39 standards.
Well, and that's definitely an advocacy win for not just your staff, but also council, talking about the uniqueness of this facility. The province often isn't willing to do those one-off changes when they make big sweeping changes across the province. So definitely an advocacy win. So I appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Bressie. I'll turn it over. See if there's any more questions from committee or council. And if not, I'll be prepared to do some business. Councillor Blackmore.
I actually do have another question.
Okay.
I'm wondering, there's pinch points. We can clearly see there's pinch points, and we need to be aware that we're going to need some kind of additional housing in the future. I'm wondering if the pinch points are greater at the intake end, those people who need high services and those limited number of 62 beds at Cedar Point, or if it's the pinch point is moving people into more transitional housing, like Fletcher House, for example, where services are not provided quite to the extent. I'm just wondering when we're looking forward, do you have any idea yet what part will need to expand the first?
Ms. Wenzel.
Thank you for the question through the chair. That's a really good question, and it's again one of those hard questions to answer. When I look at the data, what we're seeing, I would say pinch points are happening all through the continuum right now. As we can see, we're at near capacity in any of the programs that we operate. We can look at that as it's amazing that we are at the capacity. However, when we're looking at the data, it also can be scary, because it's like when we're at that capacity, it's like, how do we continue moving people through the continuum if we don't have any more options for them? So it's really a difficult question to answer, because as we know, and what we've seen is we could potentially have 5 people in 1 month move out of one of our programs because it wasn't the right match. So then they're looking to move into another program. So we could have 5 spaces open up in 1 month. So it's a very difficult question to kind of pinpoint, like, where absolutely are those crucial points in our system.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at going forward, obviously.
Correct. The housing needs assessment will give us some of that.
Okay, I will allow that. Councillor Blackmore, I don't see any hands shooting up.
I move the committee receive this very good report for information.
Yeah, and I'll second that motion. It was an excellent report. It's good to know what the city's doing and what we're responsible for. It's good to know that we got a plan going forward to how to address some of the issues down the line of the housing continuum. So great work, Ms. Wenzel. I'll call this to question.
Thank you.
And that motion carries 4-0. You are relieved of your position at the chair, but you're still welcome to do great work for the city of Grande Prairie. All right, moving right along, we got one last item left. It is our outstanding items list, which isn't as outstanding as it once was. I remember when Chief Lemieux was 4 pages deep into this, and now we're not even making a page. Chief Lemieux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today we dealt with item 1368, so I would ask that that item be removed from the list. Thank you.
Oh, just a question, Chief Lemieux, in regards to the motion made for amendments to that. Would that appear as a new item, or would we just carry it on as the old item?
Yes, our city clerk will take care of adding that to the list.
I believe in that so much. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'll look for a motion to Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I'd like to move committee receive the September 2nd outstanding items list as amended for information.
Beautiful. All right. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, the voting is popped up. Please vote.
Councillor Blackmore in favor.
And that motion carries 4-0. And that is the end of our Public and Protective Services Committee meeting. Thanks for tuning in, members of the public and anyone else. We'll be right back shortly with Investment and Strategy Services.